Hello and welcome back to another episode of Getting into the Dark Side. Hey, welcome back, Sydney.
Sebastian.
And we are back with Vergen once again, probably not for the last time. And yeah, what do you think? Do you want to continue into the abyss of properly validating that this short ID of 7 characters in length is non-ambiguous within the repository? It's a mouthful, isn't it? Or do you want to continue with simpler things somewhere else?
Maybe sticking with the simpler things for now. Also, like on the top layer, I guess, getting an overview first. So kind of trying to implement the rest of the entries. And then maybe we have a better idea of what we need to adjust in Git Oxide.
Sounds good to me. Especially it sounds like something we can accomplish in like 30 minutes to an hour. Compiling, running, and that's our status quo here. We have these two things, and we could only kind of manually test that the short SHA is indeed 7 characters, but we did that last time, so that should still work. And now for the next thing. So SHA kind short. Now we are in the existing implementation. And what's next? Next is Semver. Oh, okay. So we have normal Semver and lightweight Semver. Okay. And to look it up, so Semver dirty is a configuration flag, probably just to see if dirtiness of the repository should matter. And then I mean, you can look this up. But you see there's some options to figure out how to describe a particular hash. I think this is good too. Yeah, it's good too. And this will then build a string that is that is probably hard to actually build. I mean, it's not super trivial, I guess. Because more like, where's your current head and how can we best describe that ID? Using tag names potentially, or only branch names. And this is how these format options come into play.
Okay, so it's just looking up the last tag essentially and then kind of building it from there. It's really just looking at the current commit and then trying to figure out a good version tag.
Yeah. But the thing is, I'm unable to just quickly implement this because that requires a lot of tests and digging into the actual code on how Git does that so that you get the same result. And I think describe is important. Being able to do that is something you want, but it's something where you need to pay attention, great attention. Also, you need working tree access. You need to be able to figure out if the work tree is dirty. For that, you need Git index, you need a work tree. And all that is currently...
Dirty means what exactly?
Right, dirty means... Yeah, that's the opposite of dirty. That's clean.
Okay. And so any changes that are currently...
Yes. I think there's probably ways to also determine what contributes to dirtiness of a work tree. So is it untracked file, or do you rather want to ignore them? Or is it actual changes, actual modified files, or files that are tracked? And I don't know that either, what this means for libgit2 in this case, or for, or how to replicate that. Yeah, so there's a lot missing. So compared to what we had previously, partially we can implement this, but only partially. Everything related to dirtiness we can't do yet. And everything else probably needs some more digging to understand how this actually is done. But you're right, theoretically find the closest branch and or tag, and then you get this. I think it's basically good describe, huh? It's interesting. This dash, oh yeah. This means 9 commits ahead of 6.0.
That's what I've guessed as well. Yeah, I don't know, but that seems kind of obvious.
9. Yeah, 9 into the future. That's that. So this should be relatively easy to implement after all, huh? Find a tag, count how far it is away.
And then append the current hash, the short hash.
Yes, the short hash, which better is unambiguous. So,
I mean, essentially that means that there's an entire format that goes into this. And of course, you say we have to be thorough and figure out all of the details there to make sure this always, this is the same as Git. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though maybe I'm overthinking it, I just know that probably there's a lot of flags here. And, you know, if there's describe options already, then probably there's a lot to be able to configure, and just to have an understanding before you rush in and think it's easy, but then you miss half of it. Because I rarely use this, you know, I don't really know what this can do and what people would expect from it. Oh, interesting. So let's see if we can, yeah. So I don't know what dirty does or how you can trigger it, because it should tell you that you're on a dirty state here. If you were on a dirty state, which I'm apparently not. Okay, no. Ah, there we go. So I think that's the dirty suffix. So I don't know.
So and for that you would compare work trees essentially, and then figure out if something changed.
Yeah, and we also know untracked files don't contribute to dirty by default. Yeah, so figuring out what this means by using git describe is probably already a good way of doing it, because libgit2 in the end only replicates what git exposes using the command line interface. So they would offer similar things. And untracked, untracked doesn't seem to be listed here. So yeah, it's just modified files. Okay, so part of it we could do, except for the dirtiness, I guess. Let's see if there's something easier though. It doesn't need any additional. Okay, so that's December, and we have one more choice, resolve. Okay. I don't know what this is, because that doesn't seem to be setting an environment variable here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's run just git2. Let's see what there is.
I mean, there's also a file called constants.rs, and that I think has all the entries in it.
Configure git. Yeah, but that should be. I mean, look at this. I think we missed the timestamp stuff entirely. And there's Sember, SHA. Oh, look at that. This is it here. Rerun if change. So it sets some variable there in the config, and that might be picked up later to say if our head changes or if the reference that the head points to changes, then these variables need to update. So this is how Cargo learns. This is how Cargo learns whether or not to rerun the build because something changes.
Oh, cool.
And this is something we can obviously do. This might be the easiest for now, and then second easiest is the timestamp, the commit timestamp. And yeah, that would be my suggestion. Go with whatever this is. Okay. Ah yeah, look. So these two things we want to set essentially. The ref path and the head path in the config. The full path to it like this. Okay. Can do. So for that we need a repo path. And this is ref head. Okay, there's no further configuration that would turn this on or off. This is something that's always needed. Makes sense. That determines how fresh the build is. Okay, cool. Let's see. So here we are with the SHA config. And now it's config dot something mut head ref. Oh, what? Oh, I did not. Either I got something wrong here or it doesn't complete head ref mut. It was, no? For instance. No. Do you remember the exact name?
Not sure, no.
Head path. Head path mut and ref path mut. And it's just this config. Okay. And it can't complete them. Head path mut. Okay, so we should have a head here already, do we? Yes, on this level we do have the head, and from there we can get everything else. Like here, the referent, that's already the full name of the ref that it points to, so we can use these two things. So head. Oh, that's an interesting one. I mean, the head is called head, and we kind of know where it lives. But there's actually no path function yet for this. It just ignores its own location right now. Because yeah, it's not there. And interestingly, I don't think any of these actually have their full location. Like, not by default. They don't store that. The handle has the location. So this ref store, it has the base path, and from there you know where things actually are absolutely on the file system. So I have to go through that. I think that's fair. So these are just relative things, but in conjunction with their handle, you can get everything else. All right, and where's our? Do we have a handle here? Yes. Handle refs base. So that base path, I think that is just. We'll see. We can just try things out. In any case, we want to join this. And we kind of know it's always the head. Even though now we would have to hard code this here, right? It's okay, I guess, but that's worth refactoring. Like, what's the path of the head? Somebody should maybe produce this for us. So that should be...
Why? Because you said it's always the same, right?
Yes. But it's also something that isn't actually available if your underlying database is a ref table, for instance. Like right now, we just have a normal, typical Git refs database, and there it's always the same. But there's also a ref table database, and it's entirely different. I don't think there's even a head anymore because refs are stored in binary, and it's a different format.
Okay.
Think of, oh, it's an SQLite database now, and everything is in there, and no loose files anymore. And then this doesn't work. So I would not encourage this to be used at all. This is also something that can be failing eventually. Like I would already, or that might not exist. You know, I might already make this an optional here, because this just, it doesn't always work. Most of the time it will though. It's just in 10 years, maybe not, because everybody has ref table, which honestly, not gonna happen. Because nobody needs ref table. Like this is for service again. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about once you put this into head. Should this be optional or not, or what? Don't know. Okay, let's see. Do we see more now? Does it print more? Does it already print? What? Ah, that's an option, really? Okay. That's nice. So this head path mat is actually an optional.
Okay.
Which is good, because that kind of, it would fit that API that I was thinking about to make that an optional. Even though for different reason. And we see that does look good. That's the right one. Okay. And then if you're pointing to a reference, it's more like a ref name. Full name ref. I am not surprised for a moment. Why is this red? But it's the linter. Who is aggressive? Then we have config dot ref path mat, I hope. And that's probably same thing. Handle refs base join ref name. Does this join? Or is there a two path or something? There's a two path. Okay. So we can interpret this ref name as path, and then we can join this. Should be the right thing to do. Same here. There is just no file system path to look at if there is a ref table. And this reference name, it's a full name ref. It literally only knows itself. It doesn't know any basis or something like that. So I think that would also be a candidate to somehow have some API that allows you to get the reference maybe itself, like there's head into referent, which gives you the reference, the easy reference. And that one also has a handle. So this could have some method to build that path and maybe also make it optional. So my tendency actually is more like turn that into a referent. And if that's there, it's already here an option. Oh, wait. Oh, what? No. That can panic. That's not what I want. That's bad.
Try into missing.
Yeah, I think that one is missing. Okay. Let's document this. Okay. Into referent. I am in the right path now, so I'm changing my local file here. That's good. That was what I originally wanted with this kind of setup. So yeah, let's have some try into referent here. And there's the question again, how to do it. It's all about this kind here. Only this works. And actually, I think the reason try into referent doesn't exist is that you would just match on it. You have access to this. Here, it's public. So if this is some get easy head kind symbolic, and I'm now making up the path like I think it should be, and see if it really is what I think it should be. Yeah, that import doesn't seem to be there yet. Git repository discover, yeah. Also, maybe a good thing to fix. Use git repository as git. That should work, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Look at that. I guessed right. Okay. And now how do I get the name? Okay, I can just access the name. But there's nothing in terms of path yet. So that's something we could add there too, similar to what we could add here to the path. Yeah, so this is how you would do it, because now you automatically skip all the other cases and you don't have to turn cases of an enumeration or variants of an enumeration into some result type, because that would be what we would want or what we would do in a try into case. I think that's better. You're awfully quiet.
Yeah, just thinking, I mean, you said into result, my guess would have been an option because there is only one way, right? But of course, the try into convention, I guess, is using a result. And also, I mean, the try into way would be the more intuitive way for me here, because otherwise you do have to know the kinds. It's a bit more involved, I guess.
Sure. It's harder to find, right? I mean, you have into referent, and that's kind of what you want, but with panic. So where do you get the non-panicking one, huh? So try into referent would be giving you a complete API the way you would expect it. And then it's always the question, like, should you remove the panicking version of it? And should you just say, if you wanted to panic, then just make it panic, unwrap or expect on a result, right?
You could always do that, true. Yeah.
So it's really just a convenience to have this panicking version. And it's also the question, who really wants this, who really needs this? Don't know. So it might just be bloat of an API that is never really used. And once you have it out there, you kind of have to support it forever. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's something to maybe understand at some point and find a way. I know that in many cases I like to have a panicking version, but maybe that's not one of these.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this now a couple of times, right, where we run into this into and try into, and I feel like they've always been useful in some way, both of them. So I also don't know if there's like one default way that GitOxide can handle this, or if it's always on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Or if there is a good default way of handling it that says don't add extra methods, only add them when you need them. And this might be a case where I have this into referent that maybe nobody really wants, but then again, I added it because I wanted it at that point. So does that count or not? It's always these trade-offs, and it's kind of hard, but it's good to talk about it again and again until it's super obvious what to do and what not to do. Okay, so that looks good too. Refs heads master. And that totally works. So maybe I can turn this into commit. And I also like the way this is structured. It seems to be less code overall than the Git 2 version, even though this is a bit more complicated than it should be, because we do this ourselves essentially. So okay. Cool. And now for the refactor. So this goes to head. Right. Yeah, let's see. Am I in the right one? Yes, that's the right one. Now we can see where that would go. Probably here, head. Okay, so here's some utility functions, is detached referent name. And here's interesting. So what's the difference? Why is there referent name and is detached in this impl block, and an impl block right below is ID into referent? I think these can be combined, huh? It's like more of the same. You can add doc comments for each impl block, by the way. So if you have particular categories of impls, you can do that. So this is why I have multiple impl blocks sometimes, but usually I have them in different modules, so I can put them into different files and kind of separate different concerns a little. That's just for structure and a little bit for documentation. And really useful. Okay, my Bluetooth keyboard just disconnected, and we are back. It's Bluetooth. That's just how it is. Okay. Log peel. The peeling also has, see, the peeling has its own module and has its own input block as well. Okay, so I think this simple implementation here can go here. Path then path, maybe. And there would be a path buff because we build a new path anyway. And as an option, return some path to the file on disk representing storing this head instance or none if this reference isn't backed by a file-based store or something. File-based reference store. So for now, we only have one, and we always have a base path. And we can just do exactly what we did before. And you see this refs, for now, this is a type I just type deft to one particular store, which is a file store. And the goal is to, one fine day, switch this over to this general store, which is already present here. So it's git ref store, literally, and not git ref file store. And this one currently is only this file store. So it can be multiple different kinds of stores. It just abstracts over that and provides a common interface to all of them. But that work isn't completed yet, even though at some point it should probably be done just for good measure to prepare for what's to come. But that was easier here. And I guess it's good enough to say people use this. This is the default store, and maybe soon this will learn new tricks without becoming incompatible. Okay, cool. That's the path. And we can maybe used that already. Head path, done.
Cool.
And now, yeah, I guess it's the same thing. We do try to get the reference, and then we turn that into a path. It's a good reference. Aha, okay. Yeah, that's not so great. Ideally, that is already, yeah. So that really tells us we do want that function try into. Because that's not an easy reference. That's a GitRef reference, and that does not have a handle.
Right.
That does not know where it is, so we can't actually do this with that. And we have, yeah, sorry for the quick jumping here, probably a bit confusing. Into referent. So this one, this returns an easy reference, see? And we do this by saying, let's attach the handle. And we can, of course, do this manually. We can do this here in our, oh, where is it? In this code, we can do it as well. But that, and maybe that's the first step. Maybe that's the first step of saying, let's attach the handle. And then we should be able to get the path somehow. Like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a last step, we have the try into referent, which will allow us to get the easy ref without panicking. I think then this goes full circle. Then we are complete.
So the attach just converts it into an easy, right? Essentially, that's what it's doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's even consuming. So it takes what's there and throws the GitRef reference into a wrapper that just has both the inner one and the handle to do more. And that's something you can always do. I think that's also something for the documentation. So, hey, if you get this lower level type, you can always raise it to become an easy type again. Like that. I'm still wondering now that I see this, it's path. I mean, to path, not really. It's not really a conversion. It's really just give me the path of the thing if it has one. Yeah. Kind of okay. Okay. And these originally, they were... yeah, originally refs always had path. I'm just a bit split. Like, should people be assuming this is a file on disk? Because now we provide... This is already an optional here. And what do people want with the file on disk? This is a very special case here. Like, I want to watch a file on disk, and if it changes, then I want to rerun the build. I mean, that's cool, but it's specific. Git doesn't ever need that. Git doesn't do that, as far as I know, because it just reads the ref and it's done with it. It writes the ref, it's done with it. It doesn't really care where it lives. Except for when you are the object or the ref database that has to know. So bit unsure about this.
I mean, do you mean calling a path or just leaving that functionality in there anyway?
Yeah, leaving the function and or calling it path, maybe making it a bit more obvious that this is kind of nothing you can assume, because now it's path gives you the path. But it's an optional path already, so why you call it path? Why is it ever optional? That makes no sense. Why do people have to know about the storage behind the ref? You kind of leak the storage that stores the refs by this. It's a leaky abstraction. And, I personally don't mind that very much, but it kind of shows you, it's not, the type system protects you from issues with that. That's cool, but Is there a name that makes it obvious that this is, some people might need it, that's fine. People have to deal with the optional side of things anyway. But storage path.
Maybe something like absolute path, just to kind of, for me that would be a bit more clear that it's kind of a file path essentially.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be absolute. It might be relative. It's just absolute now.
Okay.
I think there's some code that canonicalizes the path, but maybe not. I wouldn't count on it. Doesn't have to be. Can be any path, relative path. I don't personally like in tools. I don't like tools that always canonicalize path and give you the long path, even though on the command line you just entered a short one, and then they always print you this whole thing, and you say, no, that's not what you have to work with. And technically, they should not store this. They should validate it maybe, but once it's good, just keep the short one that the user provided. And Git Oxide wouldn't do that because I don't like it. And also, tools usually don't do that, I think. And this is why path shouldn't be absolute path. Is there a way to, maybe we can also just accept that this is special and not put it here, but make it easy to get the name. Like we could provide a name similar to the referent name that we have here. And then you can always build your own path. And this will break one day because now it also assumes that this is a file database, even though it might not be. So base might already be optional here. Or it might make no sense because that file doesn't actually exist. Like you see, it's already it's waiting to break once ref table is implemented. And once that is there in a repository. And this silent breaking, or I don't know, it's nice how this already shows you that something is off here. It's definitely not the way it should be. But I would go with name. That's a no-brainer. Then you could give it a full name ref. And that should work. Oh no, it doesn't. So that should work. Yeah. So those who are into optimizing every little bit, now we have a runtime check here, even though it's a compile time constant. You see? So why is this not checked at compile time? Because it's clear that hat is a valid full name. And doesn't have to...
Yeah, okay.
If I call this a million times, you don't have to check it a million times. It's just checked at compile time once and then it's there. And you can do this with macros, for instance, or with proc macros, which actually run your code while the compiler is doing stuff. So it's a way of actually also improving the performance of this, but I'd say, or reduce the wastefulness, but I'd say we don't have any issues there yet, except for theoretical ones. Okay, so handle refs, base, join. So that's, for me, maybe a bit more like it. Okay. Yeah, this is actually static here because that's static. So we can do this. All right. How do I get from an array of 4 bytes? How do I get this into a slice of bytes? That's the question. And as ref does it, I think. Excuse me, okay. So it's actually not implemented. Okay, I thought it was. Is it from a string? Yeah, from a string it is implemented, but I think then the sref is not needed. And now this works. And now we have the optional here. And that's good, I guess. Oh no, wait, that's wrong, because we always have a name. We do have a name always, that's fine.
This will fail if it's not valid, yeah.
So the base, that's the issue, that now always has a base path, but it's part of the file store. So of course that has a base path. In future, this will definitely return an optional. So that already is something you shouldn't use. So whatever we do here, it's kind of a hack, which tells me maybe I don't want to use this. Maybe I really just want to use the git dir of the repository, because that's the same thing. The git dir is exactly what we need. That's always the base, and it's always there. This is guaranteed to stay where it is.
That would have also been my intuition. I think I can look for those kind of paths in the repository itself.
Yes.
Maybe that's more clear.
Yeah. And maybe that's the way. I think that's the good thing to do here. And this file store, it can return a base, but that's nothing, you know, it's a problem of abstraction here. So the general database that isn't really implemented yet would not have this, and then you wouldn't be tempted to use it. And I think that's the way. Okay, good. See? Phew, nothing is easy. Nothing. Now, we don't have that yet, but now we don't need to. We can... Oh no, we do need that. But we don't need to attach it because we can just use the name. Reference name to path. And then it's the same. Repo git dir. And that's how we can do it. Oh, what? Ah, yeah, right. That's an optional. Now we always have something here. But it's also wrong, right? Like, how do we manage to, like, how do we know if there actually is a file like this? So now we should check, right? Because if there is no such file like this, right?
Yeah, this can still fail.
So if head path is a file, then we provided the head path. So now we do this additional check because it might not be always present. And if it's there, then it's definitely a file-based ref backend. Okay. And now the same thing here. Ref path is file. So since we are here, this is expected to be a file. Don't get me wrong. It's just a base. It's just the question of the backend. And if that actually uses loose files. Oh yeah, by the way, even in the normal, look at that. I mean, it could be a packed ref. And if it's a packed ref, oh my God. So what can happen is that this ref is actually only present in the packed refs. And it hasn't been written in a while. It's very stable. So the corresponding loose file does not exist. So our check here would then say, oh, it's not a file, so I don't put it there. But if somebody changes that loose file ref, then it actually will be written in that spot, in that very spot, and then Cargo would pick it up, and it should. So here we would always set it. If we know that ref database is actually not ref table. So how do we know that? How do we know that it's not ref table, you know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, me neither. Because right now the only thing we do know is not ref table. We only know this normal one that everybody has. So anticipating ref table kind of makes everything more complicated, but I think ultimately because of packed refs essentially, which is optional, doesn't have to be there, it's hard to, now you would have to guess, is it ref table database or not? What constitutes a ref table database? Maybe there is no head ref lying around. Maybe this is what that means. And maybe this is what tells, I mean, that's the best guess I have, that there is no head ref, which usually always is there, this is never packed. The head ref is never put into the packed refs. So this is what we can know. That's as good as I can make it here, but it requires some intrinsic knowledge, I guess. So if this is a file, then we can do all of this. And that's, I think, how it's most correct and most future-proof.
Yeah.
Assuming that head path, or that the presence of the head ref is really the factor for having a ref table or not, which I believe it is. But I may be wrong. I might definitely be wrong. So Git currently gets preliminary support for ref tables. So you can already turn that on, even though there's no conversion from normal refs to ref table yet. And I think there's some code that shows you how Git figures out whether it's a ref table or a normal ref database, but I don't have that in mind right now. And I don't know if I find it that easily. Maybe. So first of all, yeah, we can leave that. Is there something with ref table? Ref table C. Oh wow, look at that. Okay. Yeah, it's probably a bit harder to figure out where the repository is built and where it tries to figure out whether to instantiate one. How do you instantiate a ref table? I don't know. See, so I would be too slow in finding this, I think.
Yeah, and even if there's like one deciding factor that you can just check like that to see if it's ref table or not, maybe this is a bit more involved.
Yeah, I think there is. I saw it somewhere sometime, but I don't recall where that was. And there is some initialization for the repository like this, but I don't know in which file that is happening. The repository. Oh yeah, here maybe. Maybe that's the way. Objects, index object, remote state pass objects. Here something is initialized. What about refs? Is there some ref table? No. Okay, that's all the time I would spend on this. I don't see it here. But here repo init, right? This is where it would like determine what's going on. And it does certainly set a few things. But I don't see that it sets up its ref database. Ref. Yeah, no.
Or hidden away.
Hidden somewhere. Fair enough. Okay. So let's just assume this is correct for now. And that that I guess could be it. It's always interesting, really, to see how much thought must be spent by the author of a library to expose just the right API, not too much, not too less.
Absolutely.
How much you have to know.
Definitely not super easy.
Yeah, not easy. And I would expect it to be easy. Like, I'm always naive enough to say, yeah, that would be easy. But it's not. Not anymore. Git is not easy. Many things, but not easy. Okay. But it works, right? These paths, they look decent to me. Git, refs, heads, master. And it should not break once the ref table is present, and should do the right thing, because this must be present, this file. And this leaves us for the next time with...
Actually,
yeah.
I do have one more question about what's this actually outputting here. I mean, I remember you said that this is kind of stuff that gets piped into the build, like the build file, right, from Cargo, and this is just to run on every compilation, essentially, then to determine if it has to rerun this or not.
That's right. So this is picked up by Cargo and then parsed, and rerun if change means, okay, you also look at these files, and if they change, then the whole build product is dirty, because it has a dependency graph of stuff already, and now this is part of it. And same with this. Set environment variables when you build the thing that the build script is there for. So usually that's...
Okay. So these are just predefined already, and then you just use them in a way, and then Cargo can pick them up.
Yeah, you use them in your in the library that you want to build, or in the binary that you want to build, and you have it ready at build time. And it's actually pretty cool what Virgin does. Like, it gives you a whole lot of environmental information at compile time, and you can use it to set your version to something very specific, and never always keep track of the hash of the source code that built it. Very useful for sure. So yeah. Now this is also working, and there's only for the next time there would be the timestamp. That should be relatively easy, because Chrono does all the hard work, and reading the timestamps from Git Oxide is also as easy as I think it should be, but maybe I stand corrected. Things are usually not easy, right?
I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah, we'll find a way to make that hard, but ultimately, for the better, we solve it. Cool. That should be it for today.
Cool. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for watching.